There is a part of you that you have never met. It has been with you since the day you were born. Contains everything you were taught not to feel, everything you were told not to want, everything you decided, consciously or not, was too dangerous, too shameful, too unacceptable to show the world. You buried it deep, and it has been waiting there in the dark ever since, shaping your decisions without your knowledge, driving your reactions without your consent, peering in your dreams, in forms you do not recognize. The psychologist who found it called it the shadow. His name was Carl Gustav Jung, and what he discovered about the human mind is still the most uncomfortable truth in the history of psychology. Carl Jung was born in 1875 in a small Swiss village called Keswell. His father was a pastor. His mother was an unusual woman, deeply spiritual, sometimes strange, who claimed to be visited by spirits at night. From childhood, Jung was aware of two worlds, the rational world of his father's church and the mysterious world of his mother's dreams. He grew up caught between them, and that tension between reason and mystery, between the conscious and the unconscious, would drive everything he ever thought. As a young psychiatrist in Zurich, Jung encountered Sigmund Freud's work and was electrified. Here was someone else who believed that the key to understanding human behavior was not in what people said, but in what they could not say, what they did not know about themselves, what was hidden. Jung and Freud became collaborators, friends, almost father and son. Freud called Jung his crown prince, the heir to psychoanalysis. And then they fell apart, because Jung could not accept Freud's central claim that everything in the unconscious was ultimately about sex. Jung believed the unconscious was far larger, far stranger, far more ancient than Freud imagined. The break was painful, personal, bitter. And after it, Jung descended into what he later called his confrontation with the unconscious. For several years, he deliberately induced visions, dreams, and hallucinations, recording everything in a private journal that he called the Red Book. He met figures in his visions that seemed to have independent existence: a wise old man named Philemon, a beautiful woman named Anima. He was not sure if he was going mad. He was not sure the two things were different. But he kept going, because he believed that what he was encountering was real, not real in the way a table is real, but real in the way that the forces shaping human behavior are real. What emerged from those years was a map of the human psyche, unlike anything that had existed before. At the center was what he called the self, the totality of who a person is, conscious and unconscious, light and dark, known and unknown. Around it were several key structures: the persona, the mask we show the world, the role we play, the face we construct to navigate society; the anima and animus, the feminine side within a man, the masculine side within a woman, the inner opposite that balances the outer self. And then, the shadow. The shadow is everything you have rejected about yourself. It begins in childhood. You are told, directly or indirectly, which parts of yourself are acceptable, which emotions are permitted, which desires are allowed. The anger is not acceptable. Put it away. The jealousy is shameful. Hide it. The ambition is unbecoming. Suppress it. The fear is weakness. Deny it. And so you do. You put those parts of yourself into a bag. Jung actually used this metaphor, and you drag it behind you for the rest of your life. The shadow does not disappear. Cannot. It is still you. It simply goes underground, and from underground continues to operate. It appears as the overreaction. You cannot explain the rage that seems disproportionate to the situation. It appears as projection. The qualities you most despise in others are often the qualities you most fear in yourself. It appears in your dreams as figures who frighten you, who threaten you, who seem alien and dangerous, and who are, in fact, aspects of yourself you have never acknowledged. Everyone carries a shadow, Jung wrote, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is. Jung's prescription was not to eliminate the shadow. That is impossible. His prescription was integration. The process he called individuation, the lifelong work of becoming a whole person. Not a perfect person, not a good person in the simple sense, but a complete person, one who has looked into their own darkness and said, yes, this is also me. This is far harder than it sounds. Because what the shadow contains is precisely what we most resist seeing. The person who is loudly contemptuous of weakness is often hiding a terror of their own weakness. The person who is rigidly moralistic is often suppressing impulses they consider shameful. The person who cannot tolerate disorder is often in flight from the chaos inside them. The shadow is always the thing. You are certain. You are not. Jung gave us a test. Think of the person who irritates you most. The person whose behavior makes you angst, whose qualities make you recoil, whose very existence seems like an offense. Now ask, what specifically bothers you about them? What is the quality, the exact quality, that you find most intolerable? Jung would say, look there. That quality you despise is almost certainly something you carry in yourself, something you have buried so deeply that you cannot see it directly. But you can see it in others, and it enrages you because it is yours. Beyond the individual shadow, Jung identified what he called the collective unconscious. This was his most radical idea and his most controversial. He believed that beneath the personal unconscious, the layer containing your individual, repressed memories and emotions, there was a deeper layer. A layer shared by all human beings. A vast ancient reservoir of inherited psychological patterns, what he called archetypes. The hero, the wise old man, the great mother, the trickster, the shadow. These figures appear across every culture, every religion, every mythology, every era. Because they are not invented, they are inherited. They are the deep structure of the human psyche itself. This is why the same stories appear everywhere. The hero who descends into darkness and returns transformed, in the epic of Gilgamesh, in the story of Rama, in the myths of Odysseus, in the story of Christ, in the modern films you watched last week. same story, different costumes. Because it is not a story about the world outside. It is a story about the world inside. Jung spent his long life. He died in 1961, aged 85, mapping that interior world. He wrote 20 volumes. He treated thousands of patients. He traveled to Africa, to India, to the American Southwest, studying the myths and symbols of cultures far from his own, finding the same patterns everywhere he looked. He was not always right. Some of his ideas remain deeply contested. The collective unconscious is a hypothesis, a powerful, generative, compelling hypothesis, but not a proven fact. And Jung himself was a complicated man. His personal life was tangled. His relationship with the Nazi period in Germany was equivocal in ways that remain disturbing. But his ideas, the shadow, the persona, the self, the archetypes, individuation, transformed how human beings understand themselves. Every time you talk about someone projecting their insecurities, every time you notice that your strongest reaction to someone says more about you than about them, every time you recognize a character archetype in a film or a novel, you are speaking Jung's language. You have internalized his map without knowing his name. Until you make the unconscious conscious, Jung wrote, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. The unexamined life, Socrates said, is not worth living. The unexamined shadow, Jung would add, is not a shadow at all. It is the puppeteer. The examined life requires meeting every part of yourself, including the parts you were certain did not exist, especially those. Subscribe to The Examined Lives. Next week, the man who wanted to save the world with a single book and whose ideas were used to justify the most terrible things the 20th century produced. Karl Marx, what he actually believed. See you then.